Welcome to the Money and Flow podcast, where cash and vinyasa flows meet. This is the first podcast that talks about how your money stories, through looking at your ancestral lens, can help activate your financial wellness plan. And without further ado, your host, Eugenie George. Hi, this is Eugenie. I am recording from the luxury of my car. Today in the Money and Flow podcast, it is a mini episode. We are going to talk about Latinx Women's Equal Pay Day. So for the purpose of this podcast, we're going to dive into the 4 steps to understand where you are with your money story. Now, in previous episodes and on season 2, we had the historical money story of the Latinx community. So it has laws and policies that explain why and how Latina women have been disbarred from this conversation, or Latinx women. And so it's really important for you to be aware of those in order for us to move forward. So if you'd like to check those episodes out, there will be a link in the description. Also, we had a couple of Hermana series where during season 1, we talked about different ways to activate your money story with actionable items. So we had how to be your own CFO. We also talked about how to switch careers. So if you would like to look at that, those are also in the show links below as well. Okay, November 20th is Latina Women's Equal Pay Day. So it's a lot because that can be an emotional thing to look at that statistic and to look at that number. Now, for other women, if you are African American, your equal pay day is in August. If you're Native American, your equal pay day is in September. If you're Asian American, your equal pay day is in March. And if you're a white woman, I don't know why I said white, but if you identify as white on the census, your payday is in April, and that's necessarily the average, right? What's really important when you're looking at your paycheck stubs, if you're having a money date with yourself, is step 1. Really try to figure out and celebrate your wins. You have to celebrate your wins because you have to see where you are right now. Now, I know that sounds counterintuitive because some people will think, oh, go and ask for that pay increase right now. But the first step is don't always look at those numbers. 1, start celebrating the things that you love. Now, when I've already interviewed over 25 women that identify as Latinx. Most of the women kind of said the same thing, that depending on the culture where you grew up, if you're Colombian or if you're Argentinian, like those are all different stories and money stories that you will have and your culture. So it really is important to celebrate those aspects of your life. And also when it comes to your work engagements, it's really important to celebrate where you are with your work. If you finish college, you should celebrate that. If you finish your master's degree, or you're a doctor, or you have your own business, you should really celebrate where you are. That's step 1. Step 2, you should write out all of your accomplishments. So most women, I'm laying out some blanket statements. A lot of women don't talk about their accomplishments. They don't write out a list of their accomplishments. Why? Because for women, for centuries, we were told that we should be humble. It's a unpleasant thing, but most of us were told that we should not brag. So fast forward to now, where we have women empowerment and body positivity. It's like, yes, we're starting to love and respect our bodies. We're starting to love and respect ourselves. However, no, not that many people are saying, you got to love and respect all your work accomplishments. No one's saying that. And so it's really important to either sit down with yourself or sit down with a friend and start writing out all of the lists of things that you've accomplished at your job, at your work, in your home. Just really start to list out all of those things. So I just did that last week, and I realized that I had been speaking for the past 2 years about financial wellness. It wasn't something that I celebrated, and it's now going to be something that I offer for my business. So that's something that you should really think about. Step number 3, if you have a dream job, if you want something in your field or your industry, or even if you want a great relationship with your spouse, all of those things have to do with your money story. How you spend your money, how your money flows, how it goes. It really does depend on what do you want to emulate? What do you want it to look like? Now, one tip that you can do is start looking at people's LinkedIns, start looking at people's websites. If you have a business, start looking at people that you want to emulate and try to think about, okay, what are the qualities that she has? What are the qualities that I have? And how can I get to that point? Now, the person that I am obsessed with right now is Dr. Nadine Burke Harris, who is now the California Surgeon Attorney General. And yes, is she a doctor? Yes. Is she in California? Yes. However, the studies and all of the skills and traits that she has is what I want to emulate for my future of work. So I do look at what she has to say. I do read the books that she just released. So those are really important aspects to me. Now, the fourth thing that you want to do, which I call the fourth law, is to make that network map. You have to. We all have to start connecting the dots. If you're not where you want to be, which most of us aren't, a lot of us aren't, we have to start mapping out these lists and saying, okay, well, if I'm trying to be a doctor and I don't know where to go, I need to start asking people, who do I know in my network? Who do I know in my Facebook? Who do I know in my Twitter? Who do I know in my Snapchat? Really start thinking, okay, how can I just sit down and have a conversation with someone to understand if this is what I want to do with my career or not? And how much does that cost? Right? Just really kind of break down those ideas. Now, when you're doing that, I don't want you to get overwhelmed. I want you to see this as not a linear process, but like a map. It's kind of circular. There's things happening all over. So really think about, yes, do I want to build this network? Yes, do I want to increase my pay? Yes, do I want to branch out into a different industry? Yes, I want you to celebrate that and figure out that timeline, but also realize that the timeline is on your own terms. So that's it. Latina women, you got it. We're going to really work on this. We're going to create workshops. We're going to really make it a point for women to understand how can they activate their money and their money stories. But the first steps can be simple, even though it feels like a very daunting task. It's the first step to understanding where you are with your money, and then also where do you want to be, right? I don't want you to specifically look at your numbers yet. What I want you to do is to, 1, celebrate yourself. 2, write down that list of accomplishments. 3, figure out who you want to emulate. And 4, network. All right. This has been a Money and Flow podcast episode mini. If you'd like to learn a little bit more about Hermanas episodes or the historical money story, I will put those descriptions below. If you have any questions that you'd like to send an email to, my email is moneyandflowpodcast@gmail.com. So you can email me anywhere. Also, if you need a mental health check, and you identify as Latinx or not, this is one of my favorite episodes, or my favorite podcast is Latinx Therapy. I just think it's amazing. It's bilingual. It's so great, and it really helps you understand where people are with their mental health. So if you need that emotional check first before you start doing your money stories, I highly recommend that. Lastly, I want you to just appreciate and accept where you are. And yes, is that statistic sting and it hurts? I can imagine. It's a sting and a hurt, but it's always the first step.